Okay. Our next guest, I'm hoping, has not noticed that I stalk him on Twitter relentlessly and retweet him an enormous amount. But Peter Daou is the founder and CEO of Verrit.com, a brand new website. He worked for John Kerry's 2004 campaign, led Hillary Clinton's digital operation for 2008. He joins us now. Good morning, Peter.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Did you notice that I creepily stalk you on Twitter?
Oh, it's not stalking. I appreciate the support.
You're like, does anyone retweet this much? Really?
I love it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for what you do. Just because basically you describe Verrit as being for the 66 million of us, right, that voted for Hillary. They don't seem to do many stories about us, right? It's all about what Trump voters are feeling now, right?
Exactly. Every day a new profile of Trump voters. Trump voters still support Trump. I've seen that headline maybe 1,000 times. I haven't seen a single headline about Hillary Clinton's voters, even though she won the popular vote.
Yeah. Well, and you tweeted, safe to say Hillary Clinton's book and tour are a resounding success. She and her coalition are here to stay. I don't know if it was you, but, someone tweeted like, hey, Hillary haters and pundits, she didn't write this book for you. She wrote it for us, and we care what her take is on what happened, right?
Well, that's an excellent point. Leela, my wife Leela, and I started Verrit for a specific audience that we talk to and communicate with. And when you cut against the grain, I mean, it's sort of forbidden in traditional media to say positive things about Hillary Clinton. It's almost a rebellious act. I remember Sadie Doyle saying something like, "It's a rebellious act just to say something good about her." But
right.
We started Verrit for that community and for that audience. And sure enough, we get this massive blowback. I mean, just unprecedented. Just people trying to rip us apart over what? Over saying nice things about Hillary Clinton. But, my response is always, this was not intended for you. This was intended for her voters and people in this community that feels invisible in the mainstream media.
Right.
You can attack all you want, but we're talking to a very specific audience, and we're transparent about who we're speaking to.
Peter, I don't know if the heavens opened for you this morning, if you heard that Joe Scarborough admitted that the media was unfair to Hillary.
I did. I tweeted my amazement. Every now and then, you wake up, you're in an alternate universe where people are admitting the things that we've all known, all along. I mean, right. Very simply put, the playing field was tilted, artificially tilted against Hillary Clinton. So all this thing about blaming her, to me, is just really meaningless. I mean, between Russian intervention and numerous studies, primarily the Harvard study, about how imbalanced and how hostile media coverage was toward her. The fact is, she did not face a level playing field. It was an unfair fight.
And Peter, also in a way that is not just about her, but that is unprecedented in American politics that we all should care about, which is why, they launched InvestigateRussia.org this week, because this shouldn't even be a partisan thing. It not only shouldn't be a Bernie versus Hillary thing, it shouldn't be a Republican versus Democrat thing, should it?
No, it should not. You're absolutely right. That was Rob Reiner and David Frum, and I heard them on your show. It was a great interview.
You listened to me?
It's very simple. I mean, what happened in 2016? People keep saying, it's interesting. People who don't want you to look back are typically the ones who helped elect Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we have to learn from what happened. And where we are today is we have a president in office who was partially helped by a hostile foreign government. We've never had this happen in our history. I think people forget. There are so many breaking stories about Russia every day, and leaks and whistleblowers, and interesting, fascinating reporting. Each day we get a new sort of twist in it. But the bottom line is, Russia impacted the election. It was a massive, sophisticated propaganda effort. It turned voters against Hillary Clinton, and it helped elect. How much it helped? Was it the determinative factor? There's no way of knowing.
Right.
But it helped elect Donald Trump, and that is an unbelievably staggering fact.
Yeah, and I don't even think we know, obviously the whole of it yet, Peter. When we know that 39 states had their electoral systems hacked. Malcolm Nance was just on saying that. I mean, not only do we not have a mechanism for what to do if this election is proven wholly illegitimate, but there's going to be a lot of people pretty panicked, right?
Well, yeah. This goes to the heart of our democracy. Malcolm's, extremely intelligent guy. I certainly don't know 1/10 of what he knows on these issues. But yes, every day we're seeing new stories. This is sort of the untold part of this, is the hacking of electoral systems. I try to be extremely cautious in everything I say. You don't want to say an election is illegitimate or hacked without evidence to support it. But I have to say, every day we're getting new stories now about the targeting of election systems specifically. Not getting a lot of coverage again in the mainstream media, but you're absolutely right. That is something that we need to look at really carefully.
Well, and you tweeted, I mean, the other fact that people keep trying to talk about is they're still doing it. They're still here. This is why we all need to do something about this. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about going back to paper ballots because of the fact that we know that voting machines aren't secure. But you said, does anyone doubt there are still systematic efforts to harass and propagandize on social media? And again, we're just finding out all of the breadth of this Facebook stuff, right?
Exactly, and there's more that we're going to discover. I mean, Hillary Clinton said something the other day that really struck me. That it's hard to tell because a lot of the attacks, most of the attacks that I get, this is really lamentably for Barrett, which is really to come back to Barrett, is 90%, 95% of the content is not related to Hillary Clinton. It's about human rights issues. It's about women. It's about trafficking. It's about all the issues that matter to us as progressives. But it's hard to tell, she said, whether you're being criticized by somebody who's actually on the left or whether it's some Russian troll or Russian bot. Yeah. And that's how I feel. I mean, everything that I post, everything that Lilo posts, and everything we post on Barrett gets inundated with trolls. Now, I don't know where they're coming from, and they say they're from the left, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't know if they're real or they're not.
Right. Peter, my nephew, Paul Fitzgerald, is here. He's a fantastic actor, but also a political activist guy. He was one of the original Deniacs when he was a tot. Yep. And I thought that's part of what's happened is, when, obviously Howard Dean was sort of the Bernie Sanders of that, cycle in a way. And, yet in this cycle, because Howard Dean supported Hillary, he got called a corporate sellout and whatever the thing we were all called, neoliberals, But isn't that interesting? I mean, just what and you also tweeted, you said interesting piece about exaggerated claims of Dem infighting. Bernie diehards make a lot of noise online, but the Dems are generally united. And I was really heartened to see that polling too. That it hopefully, according to polling, it's not as bad as we're sort of led to believe if you read certain things online.
I just don't think it is. I mean, more than 20% of Bernie's voters went on to not vote for Hillary Clinton, which is just a terrible thing. But 80% did, or close to 80% did.
Right.
So the vast majority of Bernie's voters, came home, did the right thing. They should be praised. A lot of people take my criticism of Bernie Sanders as generic criticism of all progressives or all of his voters, which is categorically wrong. I've been a long-time progressive activist. All of those who came back and voted for Hillary did the right thing. It was hard for them because, you get hard feelings in primaries. So the vast majority did what they needed to do, helped, voted for Hillary and tried to elect her. But
right.
I think here's the thing. My issue with Bernie Sanders is not the policies. It's the personal attacks. And with his diehards, it's a fringe. As far as I'm concerned, it's a fringe of voters who believe that somehow they're better than people who are trying to sort of move progressive issues forward in a pragmatic way to actually deal with Republicans.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, we would all want free college, universal health care, no disease, no illness, all the wonderful things that human beings want. This is not an ideal world. We're facing a radicalized, regressive Republican Party. So in the real world, to make progress, we have to look at what Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and extremely intelligent, knowledgeable people, what they think the best way forward is, and we have to work with them to make that happen.
Right. Look at the threat we're up against again, Peter, with the Trump care already.
Oh my.
With literally millions of people would die. And so I think that you're right about, that we're all on the same side of the issues, basically, as you say, on the progressive side. I mean, listen, I was against, I probably wouldn't have retweeted you in 2008 because I was Obama, and I got called a Hillary hater every day. So, and, I mean, it's
something different has happened though this time. I think the split. My concern is that what Bernie Sanders unleashed is a certain fury that I never felt in previous elections. And I've worked in a number, and I've been, as you have, we've been following elections for a long time, and we've been on the opposite side of certain candidates on the Democratic side.
Right.
But there's a certain rage that I feel, a hatred for anything that smacks of trying to actually move policies forward in a reasonable, rational way. I mean,
Right.
this type of purism is extremely destructive, and it's just not realistic.
Well, and it's exactly what Russia was after, Peter, and that's why it's so disheartening that they, as we're finding, like micro-targeted, those Bernie voters in those, Rust Belt states to either stay home or go for, Jill Stein, and with devastating consequences, obviously. And I think to say this had no effect, like that it didn't affect the outcome, is insane. She had a 70% approval rating when she left, the State Department, right?
Exactly. All these myths about the flawed candidate, and she ran a terrible campaign. I mean, the exact opposite is true. She was an extremely strong candidate. If you look at her polling over the years, very strong position. Exceptionally smart, exceptionally good. Has won every popular vote that she's ever in every race that she's ever run. And she ran against on a completely tilted playing field. Well, it's going to be difficult, and unfortunately, with the Electoral College, she didn't get all the way. But these myths, I have to say, are so pervasive that if you try to cut against that grain,
right,
the wrath comes down on your head. I mean,
right.
This is something that I deal with every day. Part of my role, I feel, is to just be that battering ram to just push through. The truth.
First of all, I find you to be very supportive of just women in general, which I think is important going forward, whether it's Elizabeth Warren or Kamala Harris or whoever it is. I've found you to be, equally outspoken about the sexism part of the equation against Hillary.
Look, I took heat in 2009, 2010 for standing up and defending Sarah Palin, of all people.
Yeah.
Because sexism is sexism. Now, of course,
well, you've lost me there, but okay.
Well, I understand that. But, I can disagree 100% on every single policy issue, but there are certain types of attacks that are gender-based that I think it's important as a matter of principle to fight against. But absolutely, I mean, I've said this 1,000 times. It's not about the person, Hillary Clinton, although I consider her a friend, and she's an amazing human being, and I admire her and respect her. This is about erasing all her voters, all the women who had such hopes and dreams. I cannot allow that to stand. It just matters too much to me personally to just let the truth just be erased.
Interesting, Peter. I mean, I've only met her a couple of times. You obviously know her and are friends, but I found her to be what everyone that does know her says, just warm and funny and down to earth. And, there's all these stories coming out now that, they sent money to the pizzeria that was targeted because of this ridiculous Pizzagate thing. They quietly were supporting, they sent pizzas to the bookstore that was affected, that was right near the shooting. Somebody told a story about they had a conversation with her for 5 minutes in 2005, a union person, and she remembered their name.
She's like that. Everybody who works for her
in 2016.
Yeah, she's an incredibly empathetic and compassionate human being, and of course, again, when you make a statement like that, I can hear the people who are opponents or detractors saying, "Oh my God, what are you talking about? She's the most awful person on earth." But look, I've tried to distinguish, and this is very important, between maligning and vilifying a person and disagreeing with their policies. I marched against the Iraq War. I disagreed with her on her AUMF vote. I've disagreed with her on fracking. I've disagreed with her on other issues. But so issue disagreements are not the problem. The problem is when you echo 30 years of right-wing talking points, and especially when Bernie Sanders, who knows better, stokes those flames and echoes, calls her corrupt in the pocket of Wall Street. We can't do that to Democrats. You're not progressive if you do that. I don't care who you are. I don't care how well you are. I don't care who you are. You're not progressive if you attack a woman with right-wing talking points.
Well, I think the one thing that's unfair is people saying, "Oh, she, blames everyone but herself." If you've read the book, she many times takes, I feel like it's never enough with Hillary. She never takes enough blame to satisfy people. But I also, agree with what someone tweeted. They said, if we, between Russia and, cross-check and voter suppression and the media and the Comey and all, if we only blame Hillary, we're not going to win. Again, we have to address all of that.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think she blames herself too much, frankly. I think, the bottom line is this election was tilted against her. I mean, if two runners were running a race and one was tripped midfield and then got up and kept running and actually lost on a technicality, we would never say they should take the blame. We'd focus all our attention on who tripped them.
Yeah. And she got Nancy Kerrigan. You're absolutely right. She got kneecapped.
Yeah, it's very straightforward. To me, these issues are just straightforward common sense. But because of propaganda, and the media's, mainstream media's unwillingness to just, speak the truth,
yep.
people have been convinced that the truth is something other than what it is, and we have to keep fighting that. It's important for every election going forward.
Yeah, Peter, great stuff. Please follow Peter on, he's fantastic on Twitter at Peter Daou, and then Verrit.com, VERRIT.com. We're going to put a link up at our Facebook page. Peter, thanks so much. And could you call Hillary now and tell her to come on the show as well? Would that be too much?
I'll do my best.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. For all the,
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for all your great work. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. He didn't seem to mind that I'm a creepy stalker. Creepy Twitter
You
stalker.
do that to everybody.
I do, like my finger. I'm like, you gotta notice, is this like probably like the 1,000th retweet and like, or is this?